From the Highlands to the coast, we'll bring you the rivalries, the traditions, the legendary coaches, and tomorrow's superstars forging their path to greatness. You're watching CarolinaPreps.com.
Get off up, Lonnie. Get off up. Hold it.
And good afternoon, everybody. I guess it's good evening, everybody. August the 19th, 2025. And guess what, guys? It's here, the first week of the high school football season 2025, ready to kick off. I'm Chris Hughes, as always. Welcome here. Another edition of Inside the Headset, CarolinaPreps.com. We've been doing this high school football thing, or at least I have, for about 20 years. So, every time you get that opening week and get to kick off another year, it's a lot of excitement in the air. And I got a lot of excitement in this show, and I can't really wait to kick in to high gear because we've got a lot of games we want to talk about. Probably I've identified about 40 games that I think are like epic level high school football games across the state of North Carolina. But before we get started, I've got a very special guest that's going to be joining me today. His name is Shawn Lucas. He is the host of the Grit and Grind high school football show. He's based in Nash County in eastern North Carolina. He has been a staple to high school football fans in that part of the state for a long time. And he and I kind of connected, and we're going to try to do our best to kind of merge our fan bases and really promote each other, because I'm going to tell you guys, he covers eastern North Carolina really well. I looked at a lot of his shows and stuff in preparation for this season. And, man, I'm going to tell you what, he and his guys and that team he's got over there, they cover that area from Rocky Mount to Raleigh to Fayetteville, Goldsboro, Kinston. They know that area really well. So without any further ado, I'm going to bring my guy Shawn Lucas here to the show. Shawn, thank you for coming on, and I'm anxious to pick your brain and learn a little bit more about some Eastern football today.
Hey, Chris, thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to it. I've been counting down for week one, like you just said. It's right around the corner, a few more days, and on Friday night, they'll be turning the lights on.
They're going to turn the lights on, and there are a lot of games. We're going to get to them soon. But before we turn these lights on, I want to kind of have the audience learn a little bit about you. Okay. Who is Shawn Lucas? Tell me a little bit about your story. Tell me a little bit, or maybe a lot, about this show. I want to learn about what you do and what has gotten you involved in high school football.
Chris, I played high school football for about 1 year over there at Bettyfield High School, and then after that, kind of went a different era with it. But started off, and I moved over to Nash County area when Southern Nash was in that boom period. Southern Nash needed somebody to be a beat reporter, so I reached out to the local newspaper and asked them, hey, you guys need somebody to cover Firebird football? They said, sure, why not? So I started covering Southern Nash and writing for them. But we had a lot of fans reach out that was reading the newspaper articles that said, we really want to hear those games, because that was the year that Southern Nash got to the third round. So a lot of people want to hear the game. So I asked Southern Nash, could I do some play-by-play for them? They said, hey, we'll be glad to have it. We started doing play-by-play on 89.1 WNIA Big Bang Radio. After that, of course, things kind of went wrong. COVID came. We was able to do the state championship with Southern Nash. COVID hit, so they kind of slowed down on what they wanted people in the press box. So I decided then to just try to go with a different alternative, a different route of covering high school sports. And that's how the Grit and Grind got started. We started just talking about Nash County schools over here in the area, and then expanded to Edgecombe County with Tarboro, North Edgecombe, Southwest Edgecombe, Halifax area, Roanoke Rapid, and then it just kept growing and growing to now. Pretty much all over Eastern North Carolina, from J.F. Webb, Warren County to 71st to Terry Sanford to Roseville right around the corner from us, and everywhere in between. We're talking high school football on Friday night in the ENC.
Tell me about the guy. You've got a partner that's on the show with you.
Yes.
Who's your partner in the booth or on your show? And tell me a little bit more about who he is.
That is my first cousin, Daryl Lucas. When I started working with the Enterprise covering and writing for Southern Nash, I needed a spotter because it was hard to try to take notes and spot who made the tackle and who made the touchdown. So I reached out to Daryl. I said, hey, would you like to come to watch some good football games? He was a Southern Nash alumni. He said, exactly, why not? I get to watch good football at the school I graduated from. Big fan of them. And that's how we kind of got started, because after that, we moved into the play-by-play. Then we moved into the more of the content for TV and for YouTube with Grit and Grind.
Well, it makes sense now hearing the rest of the story, kind of like Paul Harvey says, that you guys are first cousins because you guys have tremendous chemistry and, you guys just kind of jive right on the air. And that makes sense now because you can just tell that not only do y'all love high school football, love telling the story. And, this is my thing, I'm telling the story, not only of the kids on the field, but the communities and
Right.
just everything about high school football, the pageantry, everything that just makes it so big. And I feel that from y'all. And that's what makes your broadcast. It's real high energy and makes it so fun.
And that's one thing I love about high school football. For that one night on Friday night when they turn those lights on and the young men and women come out there and they play for the hometown, it brings the community together. It doesn't matter what background you're from, what church affiliation, what religious affiliation, what political affiliation. For that one night, we're all at that stadium cheering on the young men and women, student athletes, hoping they have a good game and a good night, not only performing on the field, but also in the classroom.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. That's really what it's all about. My big thing and my mission here with Carolina Preps over the years has always been, I want to promote the game. I want to promote the young men and women that compete, the coaches and everybody around that school, because ultimately, promoting the coaches the way I do, it's these coaches that are molding these young men and women into tomorrow's leaders, tomorrow's coaches, tomorrow's husbands, fathers, wives, whoever, teachers. That's why high school sports have always been important to me. And in this little bubble that I live in, it's kind of doing my part and kind of helping make a better state for us here in the future.
And that's exactly right, Chris, because so many kids, as we say on Grit and Grind on our last episode, this may be, especially for the seniors, it may be your last time you play organized football or organized sports together, but take those life lessons you learn from your coach, from your teachers, the administrators, and apply that to your everyday life. And it'll help you be better citizens, better men, better women right here in your home community.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said that any better. One of the biggest initiatives that I've always got here at Carolina Preps, with all the shows, whether I'm working with the Charlotte Observer or my own platform or anybody's platform that sees fit to put me on it, is I'm always trying to implore people, go to the games, spend money, go to the concession stand, buy something, because these schools need your help and every dollar that we can spend. And I understand that tickets are a whole lot more expensive today than they were when you and I were in school. But, nonetheless, life's more expensive. And, those kids and those schools and, those programs need your dollars. So, that's really what I'm always pushing for. But I kind of want to press the rewind button for 1 second, Shawn.
Okay.
When did you grow up in Nash County? Like, I know you went to Southern Nash. How far back in this Southern Nash history do you guys go? Because I followed that program for a long time. I know a couple big names. You could probably talk about them too, guys like Julius Peppers that came through. That's a really big time program. I think statewide, I'm here in the western side of the state in the Charlotte area, but I think sometimes people forget just how big a program that Southern Nash one has been over the years.
I grew up and came out of the product of the Betterfield program, but I moved over to Southern Nash about 12, 15 years ago in this area. The community embraced us. When we started everything, we needed a place to get started at. They were so welcome with us, and we always salute Southern Nash, Northern Nash, Nash Central, and Rocky Mount. But these are big programs over here. Of course, Julius Peppers out of Southern Nash, Jason Battle out of Rocky Mount, coaching over there at Rocky Mount. Coach Ferris, good product over there he's had at Northern Nash, had great guys he's turned out. Strickland, Randall King, all those kids that came out of the Northern Nash program. Then Nash Central bringing in Coach Lee out of Louisburg, pretty much rejuvenated that program. I got a chance to watch that program grow when he had Stan Griffin as the quarterback. Now he has his son Winston Lee as the quarterback. So this area has just been a good hub for football. For over the years, it's just been a good pipeline to get people to that next level in collegiate football. I kind of remember back in the days when I would come over here and watch Southern Nash play Bun. That was a big game back then. So a good area right here, always good football going on Friday night somewhere in Nash County.
Hey, and let me press the right button here. You mentioned Bettingfield. I guess Coach Johnson, Tyrone Johnson.
Yeah, I was a product with Coach Johnson. Yes, sir. Good friend.
He is one of the best. Am I imagining things? I feel like somewhere in my memory bank, and this is kind of taking us sideways, but was Coach Tyrone Johnson on The Price is Right?
I can see you probably up there.
I feel like there's a video of him somewhere that I have seen floating around Facebook of him a contestant on there with Bob Barker. And one of these days, I'm going to find that and put it up on the show.
Please do so we can go ahead and call Coach and make sure we let him know we saw him on The Price is Right.
Man, I swear I saw that somewhere. And I want to make sure before I start floating that rumor around, but I'm almost 100% sure because, he's a guy. If you've seen him once, you're going to remember him.
He's somebody you'll never forget and made a good impact on a lot of young men over there at Bettyfield with just how he carried himself in the classroom teaching and out there on the field. And he just got a lot of great coaches that come from under that Tyrone Johnson tree. Coach Ward over at Nightdale, just a bunch of coaches that come from under that tree.
Yeah, Coach Tyrone Johnson won 114 games at Bettyfield. And, he had some great runs over the years. Always a really good program. But, hey, let's fast forward now. We've kind of went on for a few minutes. Week 1 is at hand. I know that you have a big game that you're going to Friday. So before we start looking at our top 40 games of the week, tell me where you're going to be Friday night.
Friday night, we'll be over in Death Valley for J.H. Rose, our good friend Coach Bland, versus Northern Night, our good friend Coach Ferris. This is a game we've been looking forward to. We got a little history with Coach Bland that we love to bring out. We make a joke with him that Northern Nash 2 years in a row came up to Pitt County and planted the flag in Pitt County. And Coach Bland reminded us last year when he beat Northern and Southern in the playoffs that he's planting a flag in Nash County that says J.H. Rose. So looking forward to that game. 2 good coaches, 2 good teams, just a good night for good football. And if you're in the area, you're looking for something to do, come by Northern Nash and just enjoy a good night of good football from 2 good programs.
Yeah, I need to get up to Northern Nash. Coach Ferris has been a good friend of mine over the years. He has really, truly built a top-notch program. And I'm going to say built. I mean, he inherited a pretty decent program from Coach Randy Raper because, Coach Ferris has been at Hunt. He kind of came up. Coach Raper did a good job. But I think we could all agree that what he's done in elevating that Northern Nash program, that's all on him. He has done a tremendous job in building that program, and that's a top-notch place for football right now.
Yes, I truly can agree with that. Coach Ferris has made Northern Nash a brand destination where we have a lot of coaches in the collegiate level that you see on the sidelines on Friday night scouting kids. He's got a lot of kids at D1 schools. The year they got to the state championship, to me, was one of the good teams. The team he had last year was a team that could have made a state championship. Just an injury bug plagued them in the playoffs that first round. But he's got a good program and has rebranded Northern Nash where it's a standard of football over there of how these kids accept to play the way he wants them to play.
They're one of the few programs. I think I've visited about 150 schools since March 1st, and he is one of the few that I have not visited in person. I know he's got a brand new weight facility, training facility that I really want to get over there and see. I know they've put a lot of work into the facility upgrades at Northern Nash. He's stressed to me, how he feels about the season. I know he feels really good about his team. He may have an unproven quarterback, but I think that if he can get that quarterback situation ironed out, I feel like they could be a team that could still compete for a state championship.
Oh, definitely. He always has a good line of kids in there that he can plug and play. I always got a joke I tell Coach Ferris. I say it every week on the show. He is the best coach when it comes to making halftime adjustments. And I always got to run the joke with him at the games when I'm out there. And it goes to halftime. I said, well, Coach, you're going to throw that playbook back in the foul cabinet and pull out a new one, and he'll just bust out 11 running off the field. He just knows how to get the best out of his players and just plug them in the right positions to get the best out of them in the game on game night. Yeah.
And then kind of looking at J.H. Rose, you talk about Coach Bland, talked about Northern Nash just needing to find a quarterback. Coach Bland at Rose has 2 quarterbacks, and I'm trying to look it up right here. I just want to make sure that I have the information right, because I actually interviewed one of them, or 2 of them, matter of fact, when I was there in the spring. But Jimmy Martin, he is his senior quarterback, and then he's got Chase Davis, who I believe is his junior quarterback, and I felt like he could go to battle with either of those guys.
Yeah, we got a chance to see Jimmy Martin last year at wide receiver, and when I seen he converted him over to quarterback, I said, Coach Bland's got something right here. And we know one thing about Coach Bland, not give away the X's and O's of how he draws his offense. He realized that 2, 3, 4 quarterback rotation in the game. One unit runs with this quarterback. He may switch it up, bring in another unit with this old quarterback. He realized to kind of keep a defense on their toes. And we saw that in that Southern Nash game that it was a battle-tested team. And I told everybody going into that game that they had the hardest non-conference schedule that any team could schedule last year besides Roseville. And that non-conference schedule made them prepare for the playoff run they went on with being able to rotate all those quarterbacks in different plays to keep drives alive. So he's got a good crew over there. I think he told me when I talked to him last week, he's got about 100-some kids all together with JV and
got more like 120 or 30.
Right, somewhere like those numbers. So he's got a lot of kids ready to play football on Friday night, and it's going to be a good game. And North Dash better be ready because they're bringing everybody down here to Death Valley.
You're right. And, I'm really big on this JH Rose team. When I came out with my 6A preseason rankings, I had them 7th. I had Northern Nash 5th. I think they're both interchangeable, and I think you can make a case that they could be higher and or lower. I just think 6A is really stacked. But that Rose team, like I said, I'm really big on it. I know that the record has somewhat been up and down, and at times, it's looked like Rose maybe have underperformed. But to what you said, they've played like they've played Notre Dame and Georgia and Florida State. I mean, they've played every tough team in the nation. I feel like you could play in the high school landscape. And we mentioned the senior quarterback in Jimmy Martin, but he's also got Clarence Gilliam, who's that big offensive line, Greg Ransom, who can play DB, receiver, Jordan Lovett, linebacker. He's got a junior running back, and Nassim Davis. He's got a lot of talent over there, and I could list guys on that Rose team for hours because they are loaded. I mean, loaded. And if we thought that playoff game they played last year was some fireworks, I have a feeling Friday night will be too.
It's going to be some fireworks, and I can't wait to be there Friday night. I just know it's going to be a good game with two good teams with two good programs right here.
Absolutely. Guys, just throw it out there. I know we got a few people, most of our viewers will come on the YouTube channel later after you and I have recorded this live. But if you are watching this live tonight, either on my Facebook platform or the YouTube platform, feel free to leave us a comment below, and I'll read your name on the air. If you got a question for Shawn or myself, by all means, throw it out there. If you have a question about a certain game, I've studied up on most all of them in the state for this week, so I'll be more than happy to throw it out there. But Shawn, I'm going to do this. I want to take a quick little minute-long or 30-second long commercial break from my sponsors and my friends over at the North Carolina National Guard. But if you don't mind hanging around with me, Shawn, we're going to come back and talk about some of these big games on Friday.
It'll be an honor. Thank you.
All right, here we go.
You'll still have common days. Forget someone's name mid-conversation. Count your tips at the end of your shift. Buy something disappointing off the internet. This is not one of those days. A few weeks a year and you'll discover the most uncommon time of your life.
All right, and here we are back again. Thanks to our friends at the North Carolina National Guard for helping us out here and helping us put together this new football package that we're going to roll with this year. And I've been teasing this for a while, and I'm not going to completely spill the beans on it because I'm actually looking to get a couple of the representatives from Raleigh from our North Carolina National Guard on hopefully tomorrow night, trying to put that together. But we have got an incredible Player of the Week package that we're going to be debuting here with Carolina Preps. We're going to be giving away 8 Player of the Week awards throughout the different regions in the state this year, and I'm excited to talk about that. I'm going to try to announce that completely tomorrow, but stay tuned with that because our friends up in Raleigh and in the military, the National Guard, they have a crucial role in our protection here within the state, and myself being former military, that's an initiative near and dear to my heart. But anyway, Shawn, let's start talking about some of these games of the week. I'm going to go back here to my spreadsheets. I'm multitasking. If it looks like I'm kind of wondering. I know I got ADHD sometimes, but, if you see me looking around, you'll know why. The games that I'm going to be at, and I'll go ahead and say, so Friday night, I'm going to be at the Carolina Panthers Keep Pounding Kickoff Classic at Bank of America Stadium. What an incredible slate of games there. The opener is Huff High School, who, by the way, is number 2 in my 8A rankings. They're going to be taking on South Point out of Rock Hill, not to be confused with South Point and Belmont. They are both red. We're going to be taking on them. And that's kind of an interesting storyline, Shawn, because the head coach of South Point is Bobby Collins, who used to be the head coach at Huff when that school opened. They both were teammates together at South Carolina State. Sean Baker, the head coach at Huff, and Bobby Collins. So, you got that storyline. And then, oh, by the way, they're 2 very elite programs in both states. So if that's the opener, you just can't wait to talk about the nightcap with West Charlotte, the defending 3A champion, taking on Grimsley, the defending 4A champion. That's going to be a heck of a game or a heck of an event. I can't wait for that one.
I got my eyes peeled on that one. That's the game I'm definitely going to be keeping up with the score right there. Got a chance to go to West Charlotte last week and check a little bit of their practice out. Coach Sam's got a squad over there. They are loaded on the line, defense, offense. Saw Grimsley last year in the state championship. They didn't lose nobody.
No.
That's going to be a ball game there.
They did. They lost the running back. And
they lost running back, right. But they reloaded on everything else.
They sure did. Coach Darryl Brown, he's just built an amazing program there, Grimsley. So without a doubt, that is just an impeccable program. And then on Saturday, I'm going to catch another doubleheader. I'm going to go to Memorial Stadium in Uptown Charlotte. And in the opener, J.M. Robinson, who is one of the elite teams there in the 5A ranks, is taking on Myers Park, who, by the way, in the preseason scrimmages, I've seen them. Myers Park has put on a show. They were already in my top 10 of the 8A. But after seeing those guys in place, they got a couple, a Notre Dame defensive lineman. They got a Duke receiver. They got a lot of D1 bound talent. I think Myers Park might be the team that I missed just a little bit in my preseason rankings. They maybe should have been just an inch or two higher than they were because they've been impressive. J.M. Robinson, they're loaded. It's not exactly apples to apples in that game. Myers Park is the largest school in the state and almost double the size of J.M. Robinson. Nonetheless, Robinson's got a lot of talent. That's going to be a good one. And then after that, you've got Butler High School, the return of Coach Brian Hales, and Olympic. And Olympic's going to be a really good team, too. They went 8-3 last year, Coach Brandon Thompson. I had a chance to sit down with him and some of the Olympic players earlier in August. They've got a good team. I think those are going to be two big battles.
They definitely are. And I mean, you look at Olympic, that was one of those good teams in the West over there. I was keeping an eye on last year. They were making a lot of noise. Really thought they were going to have a good playoff run because I thought they were going to end up running against a Roseville, somebody like that in that run. So that's definitely one of those games you definitely want to keep your eye on Saturday to keep on watching.
Yeah, no doubt. Hold on a second. I'm sending the message, so bear with me. I am multitasking tonight. Sorry about that, guy. I got my guy who's my partner in crime helping us here at Carolina Preps, Andy Rodden, former coach. He's going to be joining us here in just a moment. So we're going to have a little threesome panel on here in a minute. So that all the more the merrier when it comes to talking about high school football. I know the game that he is planning on being at on Friday is Weddington versus Mooresville. And Mooresville is another team that has been awfully impressive. They were highly ranked in my 7A rankings to begin with. They put on a show against West Forsyth, one of our top 10 teams in the 8A. That Mooresville team, Brady Norman at quarterback, that's a good-looking squad. So I'm interested in that one. I kind of want to just kind of stick to your expertise here for a second. I know you're real familiar with Rolesville. They're traveling to Charlotte on Friday night to take on Mallard Creek. Mallard Creek maybe, inherited that toughest schedule in the nation from Rose from last year. I think Coach Kennedy Kinsley and Mallard Creek, they wanted to take on that role this year, and they've certainly bit off a lot. But that Mallard Creek team, they're really good, and I think they can live up to the challenge. But I was at practice to watch Coach Rackley in Rolesville last week, so they've got a lot of talent. And not just talent. I came away really impressed with Coach Renier Rackley and just the program that he's built, the facility upgrades, a lot of the infrastructure, a great coaching staff. I mean, he's not just a coach leading a bunch of athletic and really talented players. I think he is a program builder, and I came away really impressed with him. Tell me what you know about this Rolesville team.
This Roseville team is reloaded. They're good. I mean, I watched them in both jamborees, though, past 2 weekends. New Bern, I definitely wanted to see that one at the Bulldog Classic. Bull City Classic. They pretty much win against New Bern. And New Bern's a great team. Good coach down there, great kids. Love to watch them every year when they play Havelock and come up our way. They just pretty much told New Bern and showed that they were a little different class than where New Bern was at. And no knock on New Bern, because they're a great program down there. But Coach Rat just has a bunch of kids in every position that he can plug and play with. He's got second, third string receivers that can spread the field. He has another great quarterback, another good running back. That defense was good. And I mean, I'm just impressed with what Roseville has. I already got them slated if bar no injuries, to have a deep run in the playoffs and maybe get back to that state championship game.
Yeah, I think that Rolesville is absolutely, without a doubt, the premier team in Eastern North Carolina when it comes to the 8A class for sure. And I'm of the same thought process. I think that Rolesville is just flat out amazing. I expect them, barring injuries or, another team kind of coming out of nowhere that I'm not tracking. And I know there's some good teams in Eastern North Carolina, and that is no slight at Millbrook and what Coach Lamar Marshall's doing. And
right.
They're in that ballpark as well. And Jordan, Coach Antonio King, he has got a little bit of a juggernaut going on over there in Jordan as well. But that Rolesville team, just how you talked about, they kind of dismantled that New Bern team. New Bern I have ranked in the extended part of my rankings. I had them 11th in 7A, so they're no slouch by any means.
No slouch at all.
Coach Saxby during the offseason. That is a talented team, and he expects them to be much better than they've been in recent years. So for Rolesville to march there in that Bull City Classic and kind of dismantle them the way you said, that speaks volumes about this Ram squad.
And Coach Rat, like you said earlier, Chris, he's a program builder. The first time I met him, got a chance to go out to Roseville and just see what he was doing, it blew my mind. And I mean, I just kind of look at him now as somebody who can get kids in, really teach them the fundamentals of the game, get them to the next level, and just work with what he has to make that community get behind him. I mean, strong community over there. I traveled with them last year when they played Cleveland in the fourth round. And even at that game right there, they packed the Cleveland stand over there. And I was shocked to see them because Coach Riley and Cleveland was a great team. To see how they dismantled Cleveland last year just blew my mind right there, because I kept saying this was going to be a real close game, and Roseville just came out and jumped on Cleveland and just never gave them a chance to get back in the game.
Yeah, no doubt. Hey, talked about a program builder. I want to talk about another program builder and another team that I know that you're pretty infinitely familiar with, and that is Coach McLaurin, Darian McLaurin's 71st Falcons down there in Fayetteville. I know a lot about 71st, unfortunately, from my days coaching at Douglasburg, but Coach McLaurin, he's got an incredible program. They were in that championship game last year, and I've got them ranked number 1 in the 6A. A lot of people kind of question that, thinking, I kind of overhype them. I don't think I have it all. I think that they've got a lot of talent coming back. They're taking on Terry Sanford, who I think will be the best Terry Sanford team we've probably seen in 20 or 30 years. I'm really high on this Terry Sanford team this year. Tell me what you think about this ball game.
This is going to be a good ball game, and I wish this game was a little closer to where we're going to be at over here at Northern Nash, because it'll definitely be one that I would probably drive back and forth to catch a little bit of. Coach McLaurin, great coach over there. 71st, they are exactly what they are. They are a good team, a great coach team. Those young men can get on the field. They get up and down the field. They run the offense, the execution. I got them ranked number 1 in my polls also. And a lot of people said the same thing with them losing Nance and Fredericks and all them, that it wouldn't be the same team. But I got a chance to watch some of the guys, the sophomores last year, when they got in the game, and they were good players. I mean, he's got Nance's son that plays quarterback. I mean, not Nance's son, Nance's little brother that plays quarterback. So he's got a good team over there. This is going to probably be a tough test for them to beat their cross-county rival, Terry Sanford. Terry Sanford's always got a good team over there. They got a great coach. Had a chance to watch them last year. 2 years ago when they played Vance County in the playoffs, another good team. So I'm definitely got my eyes peeled on this one. And if 71st can play a good game, this will be a good measure stick game to let Coach McLaurin know where his 71st team is versus last year's team.
Yeah, no doubt. Hey, I got Andy Rodden waiting in the background. He's going to come on with us in a moment. But I got a couple more Eastern games that I know that's in your wheelhouse that I kind of want to pick your brain on. Kind of staying right there in that Wake County area. Millbrook, Garner, this is an old school rivalry game that goes back a long way. Coach Lamar Marshall and I have known each other for 30 years, I bet you. Lamar is as top shelf as it gets. Great coach, had a tremendous run at Mount Tabor. A Duke grad, played on one of those really good 94-95 Duke teams. I mean, phenomenal running back in the ACC, phenomenal coach. So, what he's done in building and I ain't going to say building because Clarence Inscore already had a great Millbrook program, but I want to say elevating that Millbrook tradition and everything that's going there. He's doing a great job. Cross County over there in Garner, the eastern side of Wake County. Deron Donald, coached with me under Coach Russell Stone down at Douglasburg. We were part of some really good teams there. Coach Donald has come, and, that Garner program, you want to talk about elite program in Eastern North Carolina. They were the standard really for a long time. And you think back to, Thurman Leach and a lot of those guys there at Garner that were just there for years. And, they had just a little bit of a dip, and then all of a sudden you insert Coach Donald and there they are right again. They're in the mix. I think that this game right here is going to be a good barometer really for both of these teams, because I think for Millbrook, the sky's the limit. But I also think that Garner, I don't think that they're near that Rolesville precipice yet or level, but I think they're just on that precipice of getting there.
They're on the way to getting there. I got a chance to watch Gardner last year. They're on the way to getting there. Like you said, there's still a little small gap between them and Roseville, but every year they're steady closing the gap. And that's all you want to do every year is get better and better with the kids you're bringing in. Millbrook, I got high expectations for them. I really could see them having a deep run in the playoffs. Got a chance to watch them in the Jamboree over there. They look good. I think they really can do something. They get everything going, barring any injuries.
Yeah, and then the other game is Jordan. I mentioned Antonio King, and he he's just got a ton of young men at Jordan that's going to fill rosters on Saturdays here in the next couple of years. They are just loaded. They're playing Leesville Road. Leesville Road, Coach Ben Kolstad, he's been around forever. He is a great coach. He's a tough coach to scheme against. His teams are always, they dot their I's and cross their T's like none over. They're just hard to coach against. They get that ball running downhill to Leesville Road. They're a phenomenal program. Oh, by the way, I think they still got Jim Bob Bryant from them Havelock dynasties on staff too. So, that's a good team. I know they graduated some talent, but that Jordan-Leesville game, I really don't know which way to lean. I think Jordan's probably better talent-wise, but I think that has a chance to be a good game.
That has a chance to be a good game. I'm like you, Chris. Jordan's better talent-wise, but Leesville Road, that's one thing when I watch their games and I go back and watch their footage, one thing they do great that I see a lot of teams still don't execute well in week one is they don't have that many penalties. And week one, everybody's excited. The lights are on. You got the jitters. It's easy to jump off sides. Everybody's done it. But he just knows how to coach those young men over there to keep them to cut down on the penalties where they can get in the game and get a lead on you. This is going to be another one that if Leesville Road just plays how they always play, they should be able to come out on the winner's side that night.
Yeah, no doubt. And I'm with you right there. Hey, Shawn, again, we're joined here by Shawn Lucas, the Grit and Grind North Carolina High School Football Show. I think I got that right. Before I bring Coach Andy Rodden on here, how can people find you? Do you have a website, or what's your social handles so that way I can point the Carolina Preps fans in the direction of your fans?
Yes, sir. We are on Instagram. You can find us at Grit and Grind Podcast NC on Instagram. We got a lot of stuff for our show that we talk about up there. We got clips from the Jamboree, the Bull City Jamboree we went last week, showing some different side of Riverside, Durham, and New Bern. Also, every Wednesday at 5 p.m., if you tune in to Studio 67 NCC on YouTube, Studio 67 NCC, Nash Community College, you will see our show live at 5 p.m. We air from 5 to about 6:15, talk about everything in the ENC and our primetime game and our marquee games of the week.
Yeah, hey, I want to type that up real quick. Hold on. The Grit and the Grind podcast. Is this right there? I want to make sure I got this right.
It is. Make sure I got it right. It is Grit and Grind Podcast NC on Instagram. And once again, every Wednesday at 5 p.m., we go live on Studio 67 NCC on YouTube, where you can watch our live show.
Yeah, and I knocked myself out of the room. Sorry about that. But yeah, I will make sure I'm going to, if you will send me the email, I just want to make sure that I am sending all the correct stuff, because I definitely want to point all of our fans over to your fans and, see what we can do to kind of cross promote each other. Because just to kind of reiterate what we talked about, when we came on the show, and I know we had a little meeting last week, is I'm just, enamored by your energy and love for high school football, very much like my own. We've obviously both been around this game for a long time, but I love the synergy of what we can do. I mean, I do cover east to west, but I feel like you've got a laser focused eye on Eastern North Carolina, even greater than my own. And if I can tap into that and have you bring something to our fans and vice versa, and if I can get on there and kind of share my insight with your guys, I just think this is going to be a lot.
Exactly, Chris. I'm looking forward to it. We're actually going to work on trying to get you on one of our episodes in
Can't
about a few
wait.
weeks so that we can talk about some Western football and you can bring us up to speed. Because our fan base over here, they know about the West because we talk about the teams like the Mount Airies, the Robinsonvilles, places like that we know that Tarborough's going to have to run up against sooner or later a WPA. But there's also other teams like West Charlotte. They snuck up on us because we were so wrapped up talking about Hickory with Coach Joe. And, Hickory was a great team. They were state champ. And we had a chance to talk with Joe on our show, but West Charlotte snuck up on us, and we kind of had to do our homework last minute to learn more about Coach Sam's program over there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hey, do you want to stick around with me for a little bit more and talk some football, or do you need to get out of here tonight?
I'm good, Chris. If you want me to hang around, I can. If not, we can play and do something later on.
I'd love for you to. And I'm going to bring on my partner here, Coach Andy Rodden. There he is, Coach Rodden. Coach Rodden, meet Shawn Lucas.
Shawn, what's up, man? How are you?
Hey, what's going on, Coach? Good to see you, sir.
You too, brother. You too. So I heard you talking about the Down East football. I've been on for a little bit, but just been in the back room. So I think let me ask you a question. Do you think any Down East football teams can compete with any of the West Charlottes this year? Because I know years past, it seems like 3A, 4A have been coming from the West, and then the 1A, 2A have been coming from the East. So, with Tarboro, Havelock, people like that. Even, back before then, Newbern was the Newbern Bears, they were always a tough out too. But I know Chris has talked about the Fayetteville teams. Is there anybody that can compete with those teams up in this area, the Huffs, the West Charlottes, the Weddingtons of the world?
Only teams right now, and I haven't had a chance to see all the 8A over in the East, but right now the one I'm really backing behind is Roseville. The two games I've seen in the Jamboree, Coach Rat just has those kids playing at a different level. I mean, I talked about earlier what they did in Newbern and how good of a program Newbern is, how good the offense runs, and how they were just able to pretty much just get in Newbern and just take them out of the game. So I think Roseville is one of those teams you definitely got to keep eye on. 71st Coach McLaurin, they're always loaded every year. Another one of those teams that can have a deep run. Northern Nash, Coach Ferris, another one of those teams over here in 7A that can have a deep run. Then, of course, Southern Nash, 6A, Rocky Mount, one of those teams that can have a deep run. Jakes Rose, they can have a deep run. And, of course, Tarboro always going to be there. And Wilson Prep. I said this about Wilson Prep when I seen some of the students the other day. Over here in the East, Wilson Prep right now is playing against themselves.
Yeah,
they're just on a different level. When it comes to 1A football in the East, they're just on a different level.
Well, hey, let's since I've got you on there, and I was going to start at the 8A and work my way up, but I want to talk about some of these teams, and let's just start at the 1A. I'm going to kind of go through my top 10 rankings in each one and kind of look at who these top teams are playing, and give you guys an opportunity to elaborate on them if you so choose. Still, I know Wilson Prep is incredibly talented. Coach Philip Dickens, what he's got going on down there is second to none. And like you said, I do think that they're kind of playing amongst themselves until playoff time. Barring something really crazy happening, I would be shocked if they're not in the state championship game. But on the flip side, I think Robbinsville, winners of umpteen state championships over the years, I think that those two guys are on a collision course. I hate to say that two teams are going to play in December and August, but I feel like these two teams are. Robbinsville, they open up the season at home, Big Oak Stadium. If you've never been to Big Oak Stadium, it's one of my most favorite places to go. I've seen several games there. They had a coaching change. Coach D. Walsh, he retired after many, many, many years, and then in moves his lieutenant, Lucas Ford, into the head coaching slot. They're going to take on Tuscola. Andy, I know you're a little bit more familiar with Tuscola. By the way, Shawn, if Andy was to stand up, you would have to look up at him. He's about 6'10".
To me, that's a killer first game for Robbinsville because, Tuscola being coached by Jonathan Crompton, former Tennessee quarterback, he's got the name, notoriety, and Crompton does a great job with those Tuscola kids. But and I know Coach Ford too. So I know Lucas does a really, really good job. And I know Dee did a good job. Leading up to this, and Lucas taking over. But that's a game that it's small versus a bigger school. So I think that's got the chance to be a really good ball game.
It does. It does. And remember, we had on our show last week, we had Coach Radford from Asheville, elite program, a lot of talent. And he took his Asheville team up there to Robbinsville, and they got beat. And that's a big against the little. He'll never take his team up to play them again. So, I think taking Tuscola, going up there to Robbinsville, I know that coach that gummit, I'm missing his name. You just mentioned it.
Prompton
at Tuscola. I know that they're a solid team, but that's a different kind of football going up there on that mountain, way up in there to Robbinsville. That's going to be a good game. But Shawn, I want to shift it to you. We kind of mentioned this before we came on. Clayton, they are number 6 in the 7A. They are a legit team. I mean, they've got, you talk about, Jordan, they got a bunch of kids that's going to be playing on Saturdays. Clayton does too. And they are going to be traveling that game's at Clayton. They're hosting Wilson Prep. We've all kind of seen this sudden rise of Wilson Prep, last year, showing some dominance. What do you see in that game with Clayton?
I see this is a good game for Coach Field to understand and see where his kids are at. Playing in Clayton, that's a tough place to play in. I went for the Clayton Corn Holders game last year to see them play. Corn Holders was on a good run, and they just got to Clayton, and that fan base can take you out of the game. They get loud, they get rowdy. Student section gets rowdy. It's a good place to see where Wilson Prep is at. If Wilson Prep can go in and play the same way they played at the Jamboree, I think they will stand a good chance in this game. But this is a good measure stick game to see where the Tigers are at right now.
I think Scott Chadwick does a great job at Clayton too.
Yes.
Scott coming out from Marvin Ridge back when I was coaching down in Union County, and then he, of course, went up to Maryland and then came back. But Scott's going to have those guys ready to play too. It doesn't matter. The biggest thing with Scott, and I know about Scott Chadwick, is no matter what his team is, he's going to have those kids prepared. And I think that's the biggest thing. That's another one of those toss-up, test games right there. The Robbinsville, Tuscola, the Wilson Prep, Clayton. I mean, as you said, Coach Lucas, it's that's a tough place to play. Clayton's a tough place to play. So,
It is.
Right.
Yeah. No, it is. I just kind of want to gloss over the 1A here for a moment. North side, they're playing Camden. Kip Pride. Kip Pride's going to be really good, by the way, at Pamlico. Thomas Jefferson, I think, is open. Bonnie Cohn's a team that I kind of took some flack for putting in the top 10. I'm going to tell you what, if you don't know about Bonnie Cohn, go research it. They're going to be a really solid program. They got Hickory Grove Christian. Andrews, another team from the Smoky Mountain Conference. They are at Madison. Shawn, I want to ask you about Southeast Halifax. What do you know about that team? Because Southeast Halifax, I feel like I made a mistake. I ranked them 8th. I'm looking at things now. I probably should have put them 4th or 5th in our preseason rankings. Southeast Halifax, they bring a stacked roster back. They have 2,500 yards worth of kids that rushed last year in Clinton Mills, Xavier Howard, Canavion McDaniel, Cameron Johnson. They got a quarterback and Sarstone Taylor, senior. They've got a lot of talent coming back. I think I may have overlooked that Southeast Halifax team. Do you know anything about them up there in that Roanoke River 1A, 2A conference?
They're a good team right there, and they're getting overlooked because Wilson Prep right now is the team to beat in this conference. I watched them play a year ago when they had that good run and played Wilson Prep for the conference championship at Wilson Prep. And, I mean, they hung with Prep all the way to the end of the game, and then Prep was able just to have a few more kids to come into the league to take that game home. But they have a good loaded team. They can run the ball. They can throw the ball. They got a mobile quarterback. They are a good team, and I just keep saying they're getting overlooked right now because everybody in 1A over here in the East is got their eyes locked in on Wilson Prep Academy.
Let me ask you about one other 1A team that I know is right there in your backyard that this is their first year playing in a traditional conference against a traditional schedule. Sally B. Howard, what can you tell me about them? Because they've looked good and athletic. They've played some 8-man ball. They've kind of really graduated their program up, and now they're kind of at the big side, the big boys. So what can you tell me about that program?
They're good. I got a chance to see them play Northwest Halifax in the Jamboree of their Northwest Halifax. I drove up to see it because I knew a couple of the kids on the team. They're going to be a team that's maybe not on that tier yet in 11-man where Wilson Prep and Southeast is at, but they're going to be right in the middle of the pack in the thick of it. They got a good quarterback. They got a good defense. The corner they got over there on the left side, he's a shutdown corner. He could go get it. He could jump in there and bat the ball down. And they got a good coach over there. I had a chance to talk with him a little bit after that Jamboree game. He's got a good squad over there. He's looking to make Solid B an established name in the 1A program. And, I mean, he's looking to have them competing against Wilson Prep in a couple of years, saying we are a good place and we can go into Tiger Stadium and upset Wilson Prep.
Yeah, I agree. Hey, let's talk 2A for just a moment. 2A East, I think, is a one-team conversation, I think, but I want to ask you about it. Obviously, Tarboro Coach Jeff Craddock, you know, they're looking for their 10th state championship this year. They open up on the road against Coach Battle and Rocky Mount. You can elaborate on that if you want. It typically is a close game, but Tarboro usually seems to have the upper hand. But in the East, and, you know, I'm kind of looking at it right now, the 2A is stacked in the West with some teams like Murphy, Starmount, Community School of Davidson, East Wilkes, Corbian Community. But in the 1A, in the East, you do have North Duplin, and you got Warren County. And Warren County is a team. I was doing some research on Warren County. I wrote a story about them. Coach Victor Hunt, they've got a quarterback, a sophomore quarterback who got some snaps last year as a freshman. They've got a lot of guys on the ground coming back. I feel like Warren County is a team that's kind of getting better each and every week. But is anybody on that tier with Tarboro in the 2A East?
Right now, that tier is Tarboro right here at the top, and then you got Warren County and North Duplin, a strong second right there. Warren County, like you said, Chris, they're getting better every year. VJ has a good program. Saw them play 3 times last year. First time with JF Webb. I thought Webb was going to go in and pretty much better flex their muscles and beat Warren County. VJ's defense just pretty much stopped Coach Gainey's Webb offense all the way. And throughout that game, it was back and forth. And in the fourth quarter, they were able to take over. Then saw them play Tarboro in the playoffs. And that was a good game for Warren County to learn from. This is, you know, we're a good team, but this is where we want to get to. I'm expecting high things out of them, but as I stated earlier, Tarboro's at that top tier. North Duplin and Warren County is bringing in that second tier.
Yeah, I agree. I just want to look here at the 2A West just here for a moment. And by the way, Jeff Banner, he's a friend of ours out of Statesville. Incredible story about Statesville. They were ranked in the Charlotte Observer Sweet 16. They're definitely a program that I've got my eyes on. But speaking, he says, I would love to see Tarboro and Murphy for the championship. I certainly think that there is a strong chance for that. Tarboro is Tarboro. They're good. But Murphy, I think, you know, Coach Joseph Watson, you know, he's got Brady Grant, quarterback. You know, he's got the junior running back in Cameron Clem, who is about as good a kid as I've seen, maybe one of the best running backs in Western North Carolina. Murphy is absolutely going to be a problem for some people. But I've told people this all year. The best team that I have witnessed and that I've looked at on paper and on film and in conversation with coaches in the 2A that I'm most concerned about making a big run. I shouldn't say concerned, but I think it's going to be really good. And that's Community School of Davidson. You know, they are going to be an issue. Starmount's really, really good. East Wilkes is really, really good. Corbian Community, by the way, I saw them just dismantle a good Burns team. And I was it wasn't that maybe dismantle is not the right word, but I think Corbion, they're really good. They were without their best player, by the way. There is some good football in the West. Andy, real quickly, if you've got any thoughts on any of them Western teams.
I mean, I think Coach Watson does a great job. You know, Joe's a former teammate of mine at Murphy, and you know, when I played at Western Carolina, so you know, Joe does a great job up there, and I think he's going to give a lot of people trouble. And, you know, the Corbian deal, you know, they played Burns the other week at the Cleveland County Jamboree and stuff like that. And they, you know, Burns did win 6-0, but it was late. But it was I mean, Chris and I spoke about this. It was a slobber knocker. Like they were just, you know, going back and forth. I mean, there was some hitting in that game. So, you know, I haven't had a chance to see Community School of Davidson. I've just heard, and I've heard they're really, really talented. So I think that's one of those, you know, toss-up areas there in that 2A, other than Tarboro, because, you know, Tarboro's always going to make that run. But football's an oblong shape for a reason. You never know which way the ball's going to bounce. So, you know, that's why you line up on Friday nights and, you know, you play.
Yep, absolutely. And just kind of preview a couple of these games. Again, I mentioned Tarboro, that at Rocky Mount. Murphy, by the way, they're playing at Western Carolina against Franklin. Franklin's playing their home games at, what is that, Whitmire Stadium?
Yep, E.J. Whitmire Stadium.
Whitmire Stadium. That's going to be a good game. I've already saw the ticket sales are almost sold out from what I've been hearing. Starmount is going to Mount Airy. That's going to be an enormous game. Just about everybody in Surrey County and Yadkin County are going to be at that game. Community School at Davidson at North Stanley. North Stanley, by the way, I think is a year away from being really, really special. East Wilkes is at High Brighton, who I got as number 9 in the 4A. Corbion at Hardin, South Stanley, West Stanley. That's a big game. Let's flip over here. Oh, by the way, Mitchell County, they're hosting Charlotte Latin. That'd be a good barometer for them. And Lakewood against Clinton. I like both of those guys. By the way, Shawn, I don't know what you think about Clinton, but I think Clinton's going to be a lot better this year.
Clinton's going to be a whole lot better. I've been talking with the guy who does play-by-play for them down there. He told me to definitely come out to a Clinton game. They got something special down there with that JV team that they brought up to varsity. The horses are back. I think Clinton's going to be a really good team. Let's fast forward up here to the 3A real quick. We're going to go through these quickly. Northeastern, Northeastern and Shelby are by far and away the two most talented teams I've seen in the 3A this year. I hate to say that they are on a collision course, but I definitely think in the East, Northeastern is just head and shoulders above anyone else. Shelby, they put on a show against South Mecklenburg the other night when I was there. Incredible looking team. Northeastern's at Bertie. Kings Mountain is hosting Shelby. Mount Airy, mentioned them in that Starmount game. Kinston's really talented. Kinston is really talented. And I think Kinston, I know they're 3A versus 2A, but I think Kinston might have a little something for Tarboro in that conference. Maybe. We'll see. Kinston can air it out there at South Central. East Rutherford at Asheville. Lincolnton's a team that is really good. They're at Maiden at home against Maiden. Andy and I was at practice of Maiden last week. James Keenan, another good team. Southern Wayne. Whiteville at West Columbus. Walkertown, under the radar team. I think Walkertown's really good. At Atkins, Eastern Randolph, Southern Alamance. And then here, talk about a rivalry game to kick off the season, guys. Wallace Rose Hill hosting East Duplin. That's a big game.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead. Coach Lucas, you look like you want to say something right there. Go ahead. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, there's a big one right there. Is it at the Dog Pound?
Yeah. No, that's at East Duplin.
East Duplin, I'm about to say, if it was at the Dog Pound, get there early because it will sell out.
My bad. It is at the Dog Pound.
Get there early if you go because it will sell out.
Hey, I've said this comment for years that, in my opinion, and I've been to every high school stadium. I've been to games at a lot of them. Now, I've not been to a game at every stadium, but I've been to games at a lot of them. But I've been to some games at Legion Stadium right there in Wallace, right there at the Dog Pound. In my opinion, that is the Fenway Park of high school stadiums in this state. I mean, just an unbelievable, incredible environment that I think everybody should want to go experience at least once in their life.
There's a true statement between Wallace, Rose Hill, Clinton. Those are two schools that you definitely want to go to if you're in that area.
I love Wallace, and I also love James Keenan's home field, just like I love Charlotte Catholic, because there's like literally there's like 3 inches of space between the sideline and the stands. I mean, you are right on top of it.
That's how CBA County is.
Yeah.
Now, you said a game though that I thought was interesting there too, Chris, was that East Rutherford Asheville game. You know. Because I think Philip Russ is going to he does a really good job. And, I think his team's talented. I mean, he showed that last year with the team he had that beat the Reidsville team, in the playoffs. That was a huge upset. And then, good.
Yeah. I don't think the reason I didn't really elaborate on it, and I'm agreeing with you, Coach Russ, I mean, he brings like 19 starters back from that team last year that beat Reidsville. I don't really think it's going to be I don't know. I don't want to ever sit here and say that nobody's got a chance. I got all the respect in the world for Court Radford and everything they got going on with Asheville, and they're going to be really good. But I think this East team's really special. And, I would feel comfortable in saying I think East is the favorite, at least on paper, to win that game. You know what they can say about that piece of paper, but you're right. East Rutherford is really good.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my perspective changed a little bit with Asheville. Just hearing Court talk about his team And I know we as coaches, we're going to promote our teams, and that's what we should do. I mean, that's why we're there. That's why we, but he talked about how rungy he is, but how fast he is. I mean,
Yeah.
how much team speed and so that's the thing. Like, you don't find a lot of mountain teams with a lot of team speed. You know what I'm saying? So, that could give East Rutherford some trouble. And again, we talked about it as being on paper. Everybody can win on paper, but
That's right.
Friday night at 7:30, there's going to be a ball and there's going to be a tee and it's going to get kicked.
That's why I make it so hard to make preseason football rankings, because that paper's worthless come Friday night at 7.
Right.
Yes, sir. You can ball up and throw it in the trash.
Yeah. Hey, we're going to move up here to the 4A real quick. That Reidsville team you're just talking about, Andy, they are going to be home against Northern Guilford. Northern Guilford, they are a really good football team. That is an incredible challenge for Coach Eric Teague and everybody at Reidsville. Although I'm going to caveat that with saying I have looked at the film from their scrimmages. Reidsville looks awfully daggum scary. They look really good. They are phenomenal. Brevard was my preseason number 2. They are home against AC Reynolds. That's a big game. Maiden, who we mentioned, going over to Lincolnton. East Oakland, we mentioned, going to the Dog Pound. Burns, I had a chance to stop by Burns yesterday and talk to Coach David Devine. He is playing Crest at home. I also was at Crest yesterday, so I saw both those teams up close and personal. Crest is all kinds of good looking. They've got some phenomenal looking talent. Crest is going to be a problem for a lot of teams. Bandies, they're another good team. I have not seen them yet, but I know they're good. They got St. Stephen's, who, by the way, St. Stephen's is going to be really, really, really improved. I think a lot of people are going to be shocked at how good the St. Stephen's team is. I'm not saying they're going to beat Bandies, although Coach Kyle Lohman did play at Bandy's for his legendary father, Randy Lohman. So, there's a lot of ties there with those programs. But I think St. Stephen's is going to be good. Shawn, another one of those Eastern teams that I've got my eye on, West Craven. They are going to Havelock. And by the way, I would not be surprised. I'm not going to sit here and say it would be an upset, because I think West Craven is going to go toe-to-toe with Havelock. And I would not be shocked if they won that game.
I wouldn't be shocked at all. I've been watching Havelock and Tarboro last year, and Tarboro was with them in the entire game until fourth quarter, and Havelock just had more people they could put on the field than what Tarboro. West Craven's a good team. Had a chance to watch a little bit of them play Southwest Edgecombe last year. I would not be shocked if they go in Havelock and come back with a win.
Yeah. Mount Pleasant, number 8, got them at Concord. Andy, I know that's a program. You've seen Mount Pleasant practice. I think you've probably seen Concord as well. Concord's got a revamped roster. They've got some great-looking kids. They bring almost the whole kitchen sink back on the defensive side of the ball. Mount Pleasant lost some players with the transfer, including a quarterback to Concord, including a receiver to Providence Day. But even with that, I still think the roster at Mount Pleasant is tremendous. But given the recent, history and just all the bad voodoo, juju, whatever you want to call it, I have a feeling that game Friday night's going to be a little saucy.
Yeah, I have that same feeling, just with all the back and forth and the transfers and this and that, and and they were legit transfers. I mean, that wasn't just like, hey, we're just But Coach Shep does a great job at Concord. He's got those kids playing. Concord's wearing a white helmet for the first time, I think, ever.
Easy ain't happy about it.
Coach Crosby over at Mount Pleasant. He's got some experienced guys on the staff. I know Coach Bev, who's been a former head coach, is helping coach over there now too. And there's something to be said for experience. And a head coach is only as good as his assistants. So that's where I think that, having those people that are on the sidelines that have been former head coaches or whatever, I think makes a big difference. I heard Shawn talking about earlier about, discipline of the teams. And, I think where discipline shows itself, especially, is around Thanksgiving. Who can be the most disciplined, and that's why those Tarboro teams, they go to the state championships. The Weddingtons, those guys, Grimsley, they're so they're so disciplined right when it comes down to that time of year. And to me, that is a big difference. But yeah, you're right, Chris. I mean, that Mount Pleasant Concord game is going to be, I think it's going to be one of the better games in the area. Wait till we get to that 7A, but I still think there's going to be some, that's going to be a good game.
Yeah, no, totally agree. I mentioned High Brighton. They are hosting East Wilkes. High Brighton has looked awfully good in the preseason. I kind of had some questions thrown at me when I ranked them 9th in the preseason, coming off a 2-7 season. But trust me, I think they got like 28 seniors. High Brighton is going to be the deal. Just take my word for it. They're going to be really good. Would not be surprised at all if they beat East Wilkes. I think East Wilkes is a better team in the 3A, but there's a considerable student advantage, just in numbers. Just kind of throw it out there. So High Brighton, they are roughly right at 1,000 students to East Wilkes, who has 504, so almost a 2-to-1 ratio in students. So it wouldn't surprise me if High Brighton won that game. But High Brighton's going to be really good. And then, Shawn, one quick one for you, just kind of throw it out there. JVs last year, they were lights out. Varsity, they were 10-3. What do you know about this Eastern Wayne team? That is one team that I've done some research on, and I don't have a lot of good info, but I know they're going to be awfully good hosting Goldsboro.
They came out of nowhere last year. We didn't see them coming. When we think about Wayne County, our mindset goes straight to ACOT. And then Eastern Wayne just came out of nowhere, had a great season, a great JV. I've been kind of starting to learn a little bit more about them, the program down there. Back in the early 2000s, late 90s, Eastern Wayne was a powerhouse in that Wayne County, and then they took that dip like some teams do, but it's good to see they're back on the incline and maybe be able to compete against CBA Cott over there in Wayne County.
Well, I can honestly, because I played with one of their coaches, Coach Oates, and I saw him at the coaching clinic in Greensboro, and he said, "Andy, we're going to be pretty special this year," and I think I've always said a man is only as good as his word, and I'm a firm believer in that. And the man told me, "Hey, we're going to be pretty good this year." I have to take him for his word, and I'm excited to see. I'm excited to see what they do at Eastern Wayne.
Yeah. Well, we're wrapping up one on the back half right here, so let's just kind of count down these top games here in the upper echelon of teams, upper classes, in size. 5A, we mentioned that Crest and Burns. Number 2 is Hickory. And Shawn, I know you've covered a lot of that Hickory team. You mentioned talking to Coach Joe Glass. He retires all-world quarterback Brady Stover, or graduates, I should say. But he's got a good JV one or backup when they're waiting in the wings, senior quarterback. I think Hickory's still going to be pretty special. They're going to South Point. Always hard to face the red ball, the flex ball and triple option that Coach Adam Hodge runs there at South Point. They've been running it forever, and he's got a quarterback at Patrick Blee, I think Blee that has ice water in his veins for South Point, and it's really good. But I think that Hickory team, I think they'll win, but I think they're going to have some trouble with that South Point.
If they run the ball, they're going to have some trouble with South Point. But Coach Joe, when I seen him go get 71st in state championship, I really didn't know if Hickory was going to be able to slow down that 71st offense. And he was able to just get the kids in the right places to be able to contain it. And that's the good thing about his defense, the way he calls games, is he tries to make sure those kids can contain and stop the run and not let those running backs get out into those lanes and have those long dealt runs.
Yeah. Monroe, they're going to Hope County. I stood on the Monroe sideline when they took on Kings Mountain in the Cleveland County Jamboree last week and watched Coach Johnny Sal and his staff coach up those guys. I want to be the first one on record to say Monroe is nowhere nearly as talented as they were last year, but they're still really talented and still going to be a problem for a lot of teams. And he and those coaching staff was coaching them up. They had a young quarterback. They look good. But I think, playing a tough schedule, they may take a lump or two along the way. But Andy, I know that's kind of right in your backyard. I think that's still a good Monroe team.
Yeah. Johnny told me a couple weeks ago that, that he didn't shy away from playing these tough games. And, there's a reason why that Monroe team, regardless of how talented they are year in, year out, they're always, everybody looks at it and goes, well, they're coached by Johnny Sal. They're going to be. I was talking about that a while ago. That discipline. They want to just wear you down. They're going to grind it and big play opportunities. And Johnny does a great job. Now I think he is a little worried for that Hope County, just because of the size of Hope County. And the matchup that it is. So, I think that is I'll be the first one to say too. I don't think I don't think Monroe is as talented as they've been. But to sit here and say that they're not talented, that's that's a false. Just because they're really talented. They just don't have those big names that goes to the Maryland, stuff like that right now.
Yeah, I agree. Just kind of run. Anything from you, Shawn? I'm sorry.
Oh no, Hope County. I'm looking for. I'm going to see them in probably about 2 weeks. Looking forward to see how they're going to be looking this year.
All right. Always tough. I've coached some games in Raz Autry Stadium. That's always a tough place to play. Always. Talk about a great environment for high school football. Rayford, North Carolina, they do it right. Looking here, we've already mentioned J.M. Robinson taking on Myers Park and Memorial Stadium on Saturday. I'll be there, Andy. You should come over for that one if you can. Oak Grove, Ledford, East Lincoln, real big on them against South Iredale. I think South Iredale is still going to be a solid team. Forest Hills, Salisbury should be a good game. That's a rematch from some couple playoff battles here recently. Havelock, we mentioned that in West Craven. Southern Nash, Nightdale. Tell me what you think about that game. I think Southern Nash is going to pull away, but Nightdale's got a good-looking quarterback. They got some talent. I think Nightdale is going to hang around for a while.
This is going to be a good game, and I've said Southern Nash is going to need to jump on Nightdale and jump on them very quickly. They do not need to let Coach James Ward run that spread offense and throw it all over that field like he likes to do. Southern Nash is definitely going to have to cut back. That's one thing they did last year in the East Wake game is they made it go back and forth, and they finally got ahead of East Wake, but it was a good back and forth game. If Southern Nash does not come out and play Firebird football, Coach Ward could maybe get his first win in Nightdale on Friday night.
Yeah. And then just kind of wrapping up here, the 5A, Clyde Irwin up there in Asheville, they put on a show against Burns. Burns. They beat Burns 21-7 in a half of football. I talked to Coach Devine about Irwin. They are really special again. They go to West Henderson. That'd be a tough game. Just kind of looking here if anything sticks out in the 5A. Not really. Quickly here, kind of moving to 6A. We've mentioned that 71st Terry Sanford. Ashbrook, one of the best teams I've seen during the spring. They got West Mecklenburg. Mount Tabor at Reagan. That'd be a good game in the triad. Northern Nash at Rose. We kind of broke that one down. Andy, I'm going to let you kind of go with this one. Sun Valley at Lake Norman. What do you think about that one?
I think that's going to be a really good game, and I think Coach Smith does a really good job at Sun Valley, and Coach Oliphant at Lake Norman. I mean, I know we had Ryan on the show a couple weeks ago, Chris, and he talked about his relationship with Coach Oliphant too, and maintaining and growing and stuff like that. So I really believe that that's going to be a big game. Ryan with Sun Valley and Noah Lineberry, I think he's got a good chance to be, the quarterback of the county, honestly. Now there's other schools in this county that's got quality quarterbacks too, but Lake Norman is a challenge for Sun Valley, being on the road, opening up the season. To be the best, you got to beat the best. So I mean, you might as well go play them on the road in a playoff environment and just see what happens.
Yeah, I totally agree. We've already talked about the rest of these guys' games here in 6A. We've already mentioned Rose, Northern Nash, Terry Sanford, 71st. Scotland County, they talk about another great place to play. Shawn, I don't know if you've ever been to Dillon, but they're playing in the unfriendly confines in Dillon. That is a tough environment for high school football for a team to go down there and get a win. Scotland, I think, is going to have one of the best teams they've had in a couple years. They've kind of leveled out there. Richard Bailey's one of the best in the business in wins. Scotland, they were 6-7 last year. I think it was one of the first losing seasons they've had in a while. But going down there to Dillon, always tough. AC Reynolds at Brevard, we mentioned that one. A couple others I'll throw in there: Charlotte Catholic at South Mecklenburg, and then Statesville at East Surrey. Statesville is all kinds of good looking. I'm going to tell you what, I've been impressed with those guys. East Surrey's a good team, but I don't think the Hounds should have too much trouble with them. I wouldn't think so. Any thoughts on any of them games, guys? Nope. Okay. And then moving here, really getting into the big boys right there. We've already mentioned that Grimsley at West Charlotte, Bank of America Friday night. I'll be there. Andy, this is the game I'm thinking you might be at. Weddington hosting number 7 Mooresville in the 7A. That's going to be a big one.
Yeah, I actually had an interview with Coach Capone right before I got on this one. And Coach Capone, he said Morrisville's big. They're quality. They got 3 defensive, guys that are D1. But he also said, hey, we got 3 different defensive guys that are D1 too. So, that's going to be a head-to-head battle. And I think the one leg up I will give him is it's at Weddington. They've got to come down 77. And I will say this: Weddington is a tough place to play when their fans show up, and they're all about it. But I look for this to be a very close ball game. We were talking about discipline a while ago. This is where I think, especially early in the season, that it's going to show. I think Coach Capone does a really good job with discipline on his program.
He does.
And I think that's one thing that helps them stay in ball games as much, because a lot of times they're not faster than a lot of other people. They're just more disciplined. They know their assignments. And I know Coach Zach up there at Morrisville, he's going to do a good job too. They're a talented team. This is a toss-up game, honestly. Chris,
is.
you and I spoke about this the other day. Like, if I had to give it an edge right now, I would give it to Weddington just because it's at home. And
only because it's at home.
Yep.
And I want to say this right now, and and I've got all the respect in the world for both of these coaches. Zach Mayo, you want to talk about 2 of the brightest young under 30 coaches, or right at 30, 32, 31, 32-year-old coaches, or let's just say under 35. These might be 2 of the brightest young coaches in the state, who are both going to win hundreds and hundreds of games. Heck, Andy Capone's already got a 90-9 record. Let that winning percentage sink in. I think right now, Weddington, only because they're at home, is favored. But and Andy lives right down the street from me, and he might run this on loop in his locker room all week, and that's fine if he does. But I think Mooresville can go in there and win that game. I really do. I think Mooresville is good enough to beat Weddington. I'm not saying they will, but I think they're good enough to. So that I hate that it's a week 1 game when they got that Grimsley West Charlotte game, because I think this might be the best game in the state.
Yeah, and I will say this. Everybody, Grimsley's only lost 1 game in the last 3 years, and guess who it was by? Weddington.
Weddington.
So, and until somebody else beats them, I think they're still a top dog.
Yeah, no, I got you. Cardinal Gibbons going to Dudley. Dudley's a little bit down this year. They're not bad. They're just a little down. That's all. But that should be a good game. I was at practice with Cardinal Gibbons last week. They are really good. Richmond County at number 7, Hoggard. That's a really good measuring stick game, I think, for both those teams. Richmond's going to be really good. Independence at the reservation at Gaffney. I want to go ahead and just say this publicly. Indy's really good. I think Indy might be just a little bit better than I had them ranked, and let DJ play that on loop for as well, Coach McFadden, because he is always sharpshooting me in my rankings, and that's fine. He has the right to do so. Coaches sign up. Coaches, they got to accept arrows from the fans. So you know what? I'm a big boy. If you want to shoot arrows in my football rankings, I'll take it. And I'll be the first to admit I'm wrong. I think that Indy team is really, really special. Going to Gaffney, who, by the way, they beat Dutch Fork in a scrimmage Friday. Was it Friday night? Saturday night down there in Gaffney. But Lightning called it late in the game. Dutch Fork was on the goal line about to score to tie it up. So they really didn't beat them. It was really a toe-to-toe game. But nonetheless, you go head-to-head with the Tommy Knotts coach Dutch Fork team. That tells me you're really, really good. If Indy goes down there to the reservation, comes away with that win, you know what? I think Indy would be moving up to the top with a bullet. Clayton, we mentioned them. Wilson Pratt, Mooresville, we mentioned them at Weddington. East Forsyth at Glenn, probably not much of a battle. Reagan at Mount Tabor, I do like that one a lot. And then Cleveland, Shawn, you know that Cleveland team, they're going to Pinecrest. In my opinion, and looking at the paper and talking to both coaches, I think these 2 teams mirror one another like none other. I think that's got a heck of a ball game written all over it.
Oh, it does. And Cleveland and Pinecrest, like you said, they mirror each other. I really want to see how Cleveland bounces back, because people had high hopes that they would be able to knock off Roseville when they hosted Roseville in the playoffs, and Roseville just came through last year, steamrolled them. I really want to see how Coach Riley gets Cleveland back in the season.
I agree. And I think that Pinecrest team, Coach Nick Edens, he's as top shelf a coach as it gets. I think that Pinecrest team has continued to ascend. And I think that they are not far off from the likes of, that upper echelon. I can't talk tonight of teams. That Pinecrest team, I think that they're only getting better and better. So that's a special matchup. Back here to the 8A, just kind of wrap up the show tonight, guys. Everybody that stuck with us here, watching us on the live stream. I know that most of our people will watch us later on down the road on YouTube, and that's cool. But I appreciate everybody that has. Make sure you like our channel, subscribe, all that cool stuff. West Charlotte, Grimsley, Bank of America Stadium. You mentioned it, Andy. Grimsley hadn't been beat except for by Weddington in the last 3 years. West Charlotte, they're on an incredible run. That's why I'm going to the ball game. I think it's going to be a good game. You weren't here at the beginning of the show when I was talking about it, so Andy, I'll take your thoughts.
I think this is going to be a heck of a ball game too. I really do. I think it's going to be, outside of that Weddington Mooresville game, I think this is arguably the best game in the state this coming Friday. Powerhouse guys, powerhouse teams. Quarterback at Grimsley, just stud. And then you see all those guys on West Charlotte's defense. It's really an offense-defense battle here.
Right.
I'm not taking anything from West Charlotte's offense, but
Underrated.
I've seen them.
Underrated.
I agree, but I think their defense is so fast. The closing rate of their skill guys, their linebacker play is just. They'll just come up and smack you. And I think Coach Griner does a great job of that. Like to get those kids to play in that system and the way he does it. I think it could go one of the two ways. And I know this is going to sound weird, but I think it's either going to be really high scoring or really low scoring. But I'm gonna take the over on that one. I'm gonna take it's going to be a high scoring game and track meet. So to speak.
I think it may be high scoring, but not because the offense has outperformed the defense. I think special teams is going to create some points too.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I said this on a couple shows ago, Chris, that we always talked about as coaches, special teams is going to win and lose you at least 2 to 3 ball games a year. Whether it's an extra point miss, whether it's a field goal miss, whether it's a block punt, kickoff return, whatever it may be. So I think this is one of those games that special teams could rear its ugly head of who plays cleaner on special teams.
Yeah, I agree. Hey, we've already talked about the other ones. Huff, South Point, I'll be at that one. That'll be a big one. Rollsville, Malley Creek, we've already kind of hit that one. Millbrook, Garner, Leedsville, Jordan, Hoggard, Richmond, all these. West Forsyth and Davie, that's the Battle of the Yadkin River up there, rivalry game. That's one I'm just anxious to see what the outcome is. I think both of them are solid teams. Berry Palisades is just they're going to be a juggernaut. They're going to be really good. I've mentioned the Myers Park Robinson, and then kind of wrapping up that 8A, that Pinecrest Cleveland. I just kind of want to make sure we're not missing any because there's some good games that wasn't amongst some ranked teams. Just want to make sure there's none that we're missing. Shawn, I'm looking at one here in the Raleigh area that I think's worth talking about. A team that's been on the uprise against two teams really on the upswing. Enloe hosting Southeast Raleigh. I think that'll be a good game.
That's going to be a good one. They're playing for the Liberty Bell. And we had a chance to talk with Coach Ryan and Southeast Raleigh coach, can't call his name right now. Had a chance to talk with both of them last week. They're looking forward to this game. Enloe looked good last year. I saw them play Vance County in Viper Stadium. They look very good even though they lost that game. They're bringing back a lot of good kids. Southeast Raleigh saw them in the Jamboree. They're not in the echelon with Roseville, but they're knocking on the door. Yeah, I think they got something special this year at Southeast Raleigh.
Yeah, agreed. Another team I think knocking on the door who might be back. I think they're going to be clawing their way back into that top echelon, especially in Wake County. But I think Southern Durham, they're traveling to Wake Forest. I think Wake Forest is going to surprise some teams. I think they're going to be better than they've been.
I believe so. Coach Reggie always knows how to get those kids ready on Friday night. Wake Forest has not been the Wake Forest that we've been seeing the past couple of years. They had those dominant runs in the state championship, but I really think they're getting ready to come back and take that right turn as they continue on.
Another team, and these are two of your historical NC North Carolina High School Athletic Conference teams, which history lesson for anyone who may not be familiar with the North Carolina High School Athletic Conference, but that was your historical African-American school conference, and you've got E.E. Smith traveling up to Durham Hillside. Hillside is going to be really good, but E.E. Smith is a school that I think is going to shock some people. E.E. Smith, I think they're going to be on a little bit of an uptick for them. I don't know if you got any insight on those programs, but I think just in terms of a good game on Friday, I think that's going to be one.
That's one I'm probably going to plug in and keep an eye on the score right on Friday night.
Yeah, Southview at Jack Britt, another Fayetteville rivalry. Jack Britt's awfully good. Southview's got a little bit to prove in this game, and that's a rivalry game. Page at Charlotte Christian. Charlotte Christian's, they're elite in the private school ranks. Page has looked awfully good in scrimmages, so keep an eye out for that Greensboro Page team. I think they may be a lot better than the experts think. And a lot of times when I say the experts, I mean me, because that just means I may have missed them a little bit. So I'm willing to take that arrow if it comes my way, and just making sure we're not missing any. I mentioned that Murphy at Franklin. That's one I'm really intrigued on. Pisgah at Mountain Heritage be the first game in the Coach Pope era at Mountain Heritage. That'd be a good one after Joey Robinson retired after about 20-some years. That wraps it up. That's about all the big games, in my opinion. I think we've covered them all, but I think it's just going to be a big week one for the season.
Yeah, I agree. The only other one that I think is kind of sneaky in the Charlotte metro area is the Cuthbertson AK game. That's always it's a backyard brawl kind of deal. I know Coach Howe over at Cuddy. He's looking for his team, to do big things, and year two over there, and I'm interested in that score. I don't think it's a must, but I do think it's a good rivalry game. It's a good measuring stick. You know what I mean, for both teams.
I want to only use a term, and I don't know why this popped in my head, but that's like the execution bowl. And what I mean by that is those two teams execute their offense and their schemes better than anybody. They are like two of the most well-coached teams, and that's going to be a game. It's going to be a great chess match between two really good staffs and head coaches who are familiar with one another. Kids live, literally, I'm right here in the shadows of AK as it speaks. And Cuthbertson, as crow flies, is only like a mile or two over there. So you mentioned that right, that backyard brawl. That's going to be a good game.
Yep. But all in all, though, I'm excited for this first week of football. It's here, boys. It's here. It's time. It's go time. I'm interested to see the results of this week versus the results, because that's where they say you make the most headways between week one and week two of your team. So I'm very interested to see, are there any major upsets? Are there any, things like that these teams go back and go, man, what went wrong? What do we got to work on week two? And you don't ever want to look ahead, but I am excited. I'm glad football's here. I'm probably going to the Weddington-Mooresville game just because Chris actually talked me into it even more tonight, talking it up, and so. But Coach Lucas, Shawn, great meeting you, great talking to you. Sound like that you got that eastern area just on lockdown. All about those teams, and that's great for not just me, but Chris too. Being able to have you in our corner to give that insight for those teams.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me on, guys. Another one I'm keeping my on in the East is, like you said about the other games, not a big one, but it's a little rivalry between Nash Central and Southwest Edgecombe. Third time they're playing each other for week one. Right now they're 1-1 against each other. And Nash Central, they're a hard-nosed team. Hard defense, run the ball. Coach Lee has those kids playing, run the ball hard. So if you like old school football, Nash Central's a good place to go watch this one.
Yeah, no doubt. And also, I want to give a plug to our friend used to be with High School OT, Nick Stevens. His group is producing a game on Saturday at Wake Med Soccer Park, and I got a dog barking in the background if y'all can hear it. Sorry about that. Apex and Cary in the oldest, they're playing their 100th year rivalry.
Wow.
100, wow. The old Raleigh Oak game or something like that. Just want to give a shout out and a plug to them. To the event that they're running there at Wake Med Park. But I think that's going to about do it. I do want to make sure we just kind of keep our friends out there in Dare County and Hyde County near the coast if they have any effects of the storm this week. I know we're not expecting to get hit, but hopefully nobody gets there. house pushed off into the ocean or anything like that out there at Cape Hatteras. But, I don't think it's going to affect our high school games on Friday, but you definitely want to think about the people that could be affected by that storm. We saw firsthand how bad it was out here in the West last year with Helene, so we don't want to wish that on nobody.
No, not at all.
Not at all.
Not at all.
So anyway, young men, hey, I think that's going to about do a bow for it for this first week of the season here on the Inside the Headset podcast, at least for Tuesday night. I think we're going to come back on tomorrow night and do some other stuff and try to get some more insight from some of our coaches. But Shawn Lucas, I want to give you the last word here because, again, I am just tickled to death that you and your Grit and Grind podcast is coming on board to work with us. I'm excited to get on your platform and kind of promote what you do as well. But just, again, tell everybody how they can find you and just give you the last word for this week one.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate you having me on Carolina Preps tonight. Thank you and Coach for having me on. If you want to check us out, we are on Grit and Grind Podcast NC on Instagram, Grit and Grind Podcast NC on Instagram, and we also do a live show every Wednesday on YouTube, Studio 67 NCC, start at 5 p.m. with the Grit and Grind High School Football Show. We would love to have you guys tune in, and we're looking forward to having y'all on our show as we get going this season.
Absolutely. And by the way, I saw the graphics and the setup and everything you got. That's pretty cool. I need to take some lessons from you on setting up a show because I'm going to tell you what, it looked like I was watching SportsCenter.
Hope we appreciate that. Our producers over there do a good job with it. I got to give them all credit. Drew, Amanda, my son Elijah, and the team over there, they do a good job of getting everything ready for us. They do all the hard work.
All right. Well, Andy, as always, I appreciate you, buddy.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. Thank y'all.
All right, guys. Well, hey, for Andy Rodden, for Shawn Lucas, the Grit and Grind Sport Podcast, I am Chris Hughes, and that's going to do it here for tonight. But we will be back tomorrow and hitting some more content the rest of the week here on CarolinaPreps.com. Check us out for all your high school football news and needs. And hey, for Andy, for Shawn, that's going to do it for tonight. But we'll see you next time. From the Highlands to the coast, we'll bring you the rivalries, the traditions, the legendary coaches, and tomorrow's superstars forging their path to greatness. You're watching CarolinaPreps.com.
Get off up, Lonnie. Get off up. Hold her.